Can someone tell me what is the limitations of your checkpointing node? So what is the limitations we are seeing here? What is the limitations? So here still we do have some time for restarting. Still it is taking some time for the restarting, and still we do have a data loss. Yes or no, guys? Here still your name node
Yes.
has to take some time to merge edits with FSMH, and still we do have some data loss in this, right? So how to avoid that? How to avoid that? So to avoid that, so Hadoop come up with in Hadoop 2, even the checkpointing also in Hadoop 2, they come up with a new architecture saying that we'll have one more machine. One more machine means we'll replace with a checkpointing machine. We'll replace the checkpointing machine with backup machine. There is something called backup machine. What is that backup machine? The backup I will replace, let me write it here. Backup node. So when you have a name node, when you have a name node, I will also have one more machine by replacing the checkpointing node with a backup machine. Backup node, we'll call this backup node, and we'll call it a name node. So there is no, here the problem is in the checkpointing, every 1 hour it has to go and request the name node to give me the edits in FSMH. So here there is no checkpointing, and there is no request. Why? Because your name node has one RAM, and your backup node also has the RAM. These two RAMs will be in sync. These two RAMs will be in a sync. What does it mean? What are the transactions you are doing here? What are the transactions you are doing here? The same information will be available in the second backup node. The same information will be available in the backup node. Anyway, but the backup node is free. The backup node will edit and FS image will be merged. It will create the new latest FS image. It will create latest FS image. So here, this backup node, anyway we have the upload back functionality. Okay, so the latest up-to-date FS image will be there here. So as soon as the transactions are happened with the name node, the same transaction information will be available with the backup node, and the backup node RAM and name node RAM is in a keep syncing, and so there won't be any delay. There won't be any delay. Your backup node will always keep take the edits and FS image and keep merge of them. Here you don't. Here we are avoiding that. We don't need to every 1 hour we need to request for edits, and we need. There is no checkpointing. We don't need to disturb the name node now. We don't need to disturb the name node now. So here, in this case, there won't be any data loss in case of failure because the complete backup is available in other machine. That's called backup node, and there is no time delay also for the merging because it will be having up-to-date FS image. And even though it is failed, the same image will be available in FS in the backup node. You can just load that FS image into the name node RAM, and it can start come up. Understand, guys? Backup node. Understand the backup node? Any doubt? So here that will be keep syncing these both the RAMs. It means the both the machines should have a same type of configuration. So whatever the transactions you are doing with the name node, the same transaction will be available with the this. Still, do you guys see any limitations here?
Meera, I have one question. How this comes up automatically, backup node when VM node goes down?
No, this will not come automatically backup. I didn't say it will come back automatically, right? You know who is
But
this?
what is the backup? Oh, Ranganath.
Sorry?
Ranganathan.
Ranganath. Okay. So I didn't say that your backup node will come automatically up and running, right? So both are up and running, both are will be in a sync. Whatever the transactions you are doing with the name node, the same transaction will be available in the backup node. Okay.
Okay.
So if then still that's what I'm trying to say here. Still, if this machine goes down, that is the limitation. I'm about to come to that. If this machine goes down,
Okay.
but we do not have a
Okay.
data loss. We do not have a data loss
Okay.
because that I do have a up-to-date backup here and I do have up-to-date edits here. I can just fetch it.
Okay.
Suppose this is completely dead. So there are two cases. As I said, there are two cases. Case one, just to restart. If it just restart, it no need to merge anything because anyway it has up-to-date FS image.
Okay.
And case two, it is completely dead, where you are not able to take a backup also, where you are not able to recover data also. So that case also you don't have to worry about it because the backup node has up-to-date FS image here. So you bring a new machine, load this into in the new machine and start the services into the new machine, it can able to connect.
Okay.
So we don't have a data loss as well here. Still we do see limitations here. Can anyone tell me what is the
Uh,
limitation?
this includes manual effort, that one limitation.
Includes manual effort. Okay. Anything else? Let's assume that if the name node goes down, still I do have a downtime. Still I do have a downtime, right? So if it is goes down, if the machine goes down, I do have to wait for the another machine to bring up and bring other machine and set up it, or I need to make my backup node itself as a name node by changing some configurations. So to do all these operations, it may take half an hour to 30 minutes, of half an hour to 45 minutes or 1 hour time. In that of 1 hour, my application may go down. Yes or no, guys?
Yes.
So the first case one is, the limitation one is, if name node goes down, if name node goes down, there is no machine, there is no machine or there is no other node, there is no machine to take care of the, to take care of the cluster or whatever you are, to, to, right? So what we need to do, either we need to bring a new machine to make it a name node, or we have to make it either at least the backup node is there, no? So we need to change some configurations, IP address and all those things. And we need to make it backup node as a name node, right? Right? To bring new machine as a name node. to bring up new mission as a name node takes time. Minimum 1 hour it will take, right? So these are the limitations of this. To avoid these limitations, also, Hadoop come up with something called Hadoop come up with something called high availability. High availability. It is highly available. Means highly available, all the time available. It is all the time available. What does it mean? How it will work? In my cluster, there is no more. That's what, guys, these are all evaluations. I can say initially there was only name node, then we were seeing some limitation, then come up with the secondary name node, and with the secondary name node also we found some issues. We replaced with the checkpointing node also have some issues, and we replaced with the backup node, and backup node also has some limitations, and now we are replacing backup node with something else. So it doesn't mean that in your cluster you will be having a backup node, secondary name, checkpointing node, all will not be there. Either one of the mission will be there, one of the feature will be there, right? So let's look at here the high availability. What is high availability? And you will be having a two name nodes here. You will be having a two name nodes. That's called name node 1, name node 2. The name node 1 will call active name node. Name node 2
All
will,
these are in Hadoop 2 architecture, right?
yes. Name node 2 will call standby name node. Name node 2 will call standby name node. Okay. So here, whatever the data nodes we have, will be reporting to both the guys. Will be reporting to both the guys. Like we have a team manager and team lead. Team manager and team lead, right? So this active name node will take care of write operations. The standby name node will take care of read operation. When both are available, when both are available, when both are available, it means if we have a team manager and team lead, what they will do, they will share the load. I mean, they will share the work. Hey, you do this work and I will do that work. They will divide the work, right? So let's assume that one of the person is an off, like a name lead. Your lead is not going to come for another next 10 days or 2 days or whatever it is. So what you will do? Your manager itself will take care of the both the works. It means if while both are running in the same cluster, while both are running in the cluster, I can say, now what will happen? One guy will take care of the only write request, and if anyone comes for the read, he will take care of the request. Okay, if something happened to cluster and one mission is failed, this is failed. If this is fail, what will happen? Automatically your secondary name node will understand actually it's not secondary name node. It could have been named it as a secondary name node because it is actually working as a secondary name node. It is actually working as a secondary name node. They could have give the name like a secondary name node here. What the standby name node is happening? This is standby, and this is active. It will take care of the both the roles. So even though if active name node is not there, immediately the standby name node will come into picture. He will take care of all the roles and responsibilities, because he also knows that each and every operation, whatever the operation are happen, and he will also know that late up to date latest FS image and all. How? So they will be having a central location that's called shared location. So it can be your normal storage area network, a SAN or SAN. It's a SAN, storage area network. Okay, you can have a SAN here, or you can have some other zookeeper services. You can have anything other like a journal nodes. You can have a journal node. One machine you can have where it have a central location where they're sharing the edits and FS image, and your secondary name node responsible is to take the edits and merge with FS image and upload back. The standby name node, not secondary. I should not say secondary. It's the standby name node. The responsibility is take the edits and FS image from the central location, merge it and update back. That is the responsibility of the standby name node. And when both are running, yes, they will both. One guy will take care of the write operations. One guy will take care of the read operations. If your one of the machine goes down, which is active, then both the one machine only will take care of the both the roles for the time being. So as soon as one mission is goes, see, failing one mission is not that easy. Even though if it is fail, there will be a mail trigger to your admin. Admin will automatically come up and he will take care of the things. Understand, guys? Understood?
Veera, what is that common location in both N1 and N2 share?
So that you can keep in a central one central piece of machine that normally we'll call as the storage area network, or you can keep it as a zookeeper service. You can bring the zookeeper service who can manage, who can coordinate with these two guys with the configurations, and or you can keep it a one machine which is work as a central storage.
Okay.
Yeah, this machine holds
Yeah,
the.
Veera.
Yeah.
Yes, Sudhir, yeah. So this one active name node, this active name node is knowing about write operation and standby is knowing about read operation.
It's not
So if
knowing. It is not knowing. Suppose if any request come for the write the data,
okay,
load the data,
so
that time it will take. Suppose if anyone asks for the read, I want to read some file, he will take care of it. The request will
but this active name node, it's not doing for read operation. So how it will know about read operation?
see, that's what I'm trying to say. When both the machines are there, the load will operation. Why should I active name node know about the read operations? Why
Okay.
my active
So
name node should
it
know
will
about
go
the,
down then.
sorry?
If it will go down, then it will active for all both work, like write operation as well as read
Correct,
operation. But
correct.
now both are active, then they will share their work.
Yes,
So
correct,
one if this write operation, other will read operation.
correct.
So what are the software we are using? Zookeeper as well as a central location.
You can use any other machine. I mean, it's not a software. Zookeeper is a software. It's a coordinating service, and others are not like a normal central normal machines. You bring it and you just need to configurations. You need to change the configurations.
We write some code for that.
No, we don't need to write any code. The administrator, what he will do, he'll bring one machine and he will change the configurations. So here actually I'm not showing you the configurations. Why? Because if I start showing the configuration, and you should have that configuration in your machines. So you'll not be having that configurations in your machine until you do a setup. So that's why I'm not showing
Okay.
you. I'm only explaining in the theory part. So once we done the setup in our machines, I'll show the configurations. What are the configurations is required for this, and what are the configurations required for this and others.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
Yeah.
Any election or selection policy happens here for this active and standby name node?
See, it's not like election selective policy kind of thing. When it finds that, because both the guys will be in the sync, I mean, these guys will not talk each other, okay, but the data
Okay.
node will be reporting to both the guys. When it identifies that it is not it's through what you call through the central location, he will be understanding, okay, So whether the data is coming or not, if this guy is not taken care, so he'll be knowing it, right? He'll be knowing in the configuration, we'll be configuring there is one machine which is active, there is one machine which is standby. As soon as this mission goes down, so he will understand, okay, that mission is not taking care of the request, let me take care of the request. So it will always highly available. So for the services, like we'll be having a separate admin also. That admin is called HE admin.
Okay.
So by using these services, we can do that.
Okay. So who will decide? Who will decide that this is active node and this is standby node? Zookeeper will decide that thing?
No. Zookeeper is not decided. What we will do, at the time of the configurations, you will take a 2 mission IP addresses. You say that this is actively it's an active name node. It's a name a standby name node. You will configure that way. Okay. What happens when it mission goes that, as I said, there's a Zookeeper or any other service will be there, right? He'll be telling to other mission saying that that mission is not there. You take care of the both the roles.
Okay. Okay.
I hope everyone is clear. I'm not.
I have a doubt.
Yeah, go ahead.
In this case, IO availability, is it like the edit log and FS image stored in the zonal node, or it is on the both active node and standby node?
That will be loaded into zonal node.
Okay, and that is the reason both can act when one is down. Like both can able to immediately take the read and write operation.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. Any other doubts, guys? So it seems that I'm not hearing from Venkat, Raj, Ashwini, Sagar, Kranti. Guys, are you guys able to follow, guys?
Yes, Ravi. We are following.
Okay, good. So do you guys see any limitations here? What Ravi, every time you're asking limitations. So do you guys find, by understanding this architecture, do you find any limitations here? Do you see any limitations?
This zonal node goes down actually, or if it's break down, then what will happen?
Okay. See, anyway, the same copy will be there, the standby name node. So the standby name node will, that copy will be maintained here, and as soon as it sync with your active name node will be taking care of the copy. So we do not have any problem with the, if the zonal node goes down, whether I have updated this updated FS image or not. So they will be maintaining their own updated FS image in their locations. For the zonal node is mainly meant for you. These guys will share their edits and FS image. The secondary, the standby name node, what he will do, he will pick it and he will merge it and he'll keep on copy here and he'll send it back. So then as soon as it is like in a sync, okay, it is like it is happening like that. As soon as he subnet, your active name node will take care of it. He will get the FS image, and as soon as he updates, he will take care and he will merge it and he'll update it. So that will be keep going on. It's not like a checkpointing. So it will be keep going on. The process will be keep going on. Checkpointing means, okay, every 1 hour I know I need to go to and merge it and put it back, or I need to do something every periodically I need to do it. So here it's not a periodical, it is a keep syncing. Okay, any other guesses?
So keep syncing means in the sense like it also based on the time schedule, right, Ravi?
See, the time schedule will be, but the interval is very less, very less. It will be like as soon as as soon as they receive the data, so one guy will take care of and merge it. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Sorry to stop.
As admin, like can we control the time? Like we can can we define the time intervals?
Yeah.
What is the default time interval for if we don't control it?
As of now, actually, there won't be any time interval. It is like, you know, to keep as soon as the data it sees that. So here this will be keep observing by there is something called Zookeeper. Okay. So what this guy will do, he will be keep hearing. This guy also has something called heartbeat concept. This guy also has something called heartbeat concept. As soon as this guy sends something, so you'll be hearing that, and he will be managing with the other node. So he's just coordinating it. So time interval will be like 3 seconds, every 3 seconds kind of only. It kind of heartbeat kind of information, RPC call.
Okay, it is just few seconds it is stored and go on data the information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, is there any chances for the network issues? Network issues, yeah, that is like if the network goes down, even any other cases also, that is a limitation. So I don't think network issue is, I mean, I'm asking about the architecture issue. So what is the problem you see in this architecture? Network issue is like, it's a generic issue. It's a general, if the complete network goes down, nothing work out. The limitations are here. If you see that, let's say you have hundreds of missions, thousands of missions. You have so many missions. What is happening here? The burden is happening on a single mission, right? The burden is going on a single mission, right? Yes or no? The complete burden is going on to the single mission. Either it's a secondary name node, or either it's active name node, or it's a standby name node. But whenever it is both are working, it is a burden in the single mission only. Right? So what Hadoop come up with? There is something called federation. There is something called federation. We'll call as a HDFS federation.
Yeah, Veera.
Hmm.
Yeah, like I was telling, like when we will increase the number of nodes, so if it will be like only one, then burden will come, or like both will working fine, then burden will come.
See, here the bottleneck is that, let's say I have thousands of missions, right?
Okay.
So even though active mission and standby name node or active name node is there, when you have a more, see, when we'll go for the huge number of missions, when you have a more number of requests, or when you have a more number of processor happening, or more number of data is coming, or more number of projects are working on that cluster, it means your requests are more. Requests are more, and you are getting huge number of data.
So compared to our previous gen, it's having two, so it should be better, right?
It is a better when you have only read operations, right? Let's say I'm keep loading the data. I'm writing the
So
data.
Our previous design was doing write and read both together in the same machine itself. Now we are providing two machines, one for write, one for read.
Exactly.
So it should be better.
I understand this machine itself has to maintain the 1,000 missions. It has to maintain all these 1,000 missions, right? Let's take an example. We have a team. We're working on a project. We have a team where we have a 60 members of team. Okay. So when you have a 60 members of team, I mean, feel that only one manager can manage all the 60 members of people?
No.
So what we will do? We will be having a separate manager, right?
Right.
And we'll be having for development one manager, or development also will be having a two managers sometimes if it's a very big team. And for testing, different manager will be having, and for backend team will be having a different manager. Even though we all are working for the same project, we are all working as a team, but we'll be having a different managers.
Okay.
So why we have a different managers? Because one manager cannot able to manage it.
So Ravi, when we say multiple systems, more number of systems, that we are talking about data nodes, right?
Correct. We're talking about the data node.
Data node, the functionality of the data node is limited to keep the data, store the data there, and retrieve the data based on the request. So
Correct.
when we say we are improving or we are increasing the data nodes, that means that we are getting, that is only limited to the data that we are talking about. As we are getting huge amount of data, then we go for multiple systems to have as data nodes. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so when we keep the data, that's going to be, it's more of like a hardware concept, right? Like the storage capacity that we are increasing.
Correct.
Okay, so for us to take a decision, like when we have to add more number of systems, what is the limitation or what is the maximum capacity that we are looking at to keep the data for each machine as per the architecture?
Okay, so yeah, very good question. Here, see, when we see like more than 100 machines or 200 machines or more than 100 machines, so we will be see, when we launch a job, we'll be come to know that how much time it is taking by a resource manager. There will be some more I'll be explaining about the processing part. So we'll be talking when we are have a more machines, when we are loading the data into all the more the machines, we'll be understanding that okay, this machine is getting burdened because if it's not responding for some time, it is keep running on things, and it's keep monitoring all the machines. So your jobs will be slowed down. So when the jobs are getting slowed down, it means that you have increased in more number of machines, and it has to share the data with all other machines. So we can obviously we'll understand that okay, there is some other machine is required for to handle the load. So limitation, yes, as of now, the specific number, I think I do have really not aware of this because it's completely administrative part. I'll come back on this. So what is the number exactly? If I reach to this number, I need to have two machines.
Yeah. Well, my question is on more about the data nodes. What is the capacity of each system that it can handle a maximum data up to? So
Okay.
like 100 GB, 200 GB or 1 terabyte.
Yeah, each machine it can have. That's what, as I said, it is a heterogeneous, right? So we really not worry about what is the capacity of the each machine. So it can be 1 TB, it can be 2 TB. One machine can have a 1 TB hard disk, another machine can have a 500 GB hard disk, another machine can have a 2 TB hard disk. It's no need to be uniform.
No, Ravi. My question is like data nodes. That is, data node is which is part of our architecture of Hadoop or otherwise big data. So here the concept of having the data node is process your data and just to keep the data, store it on my data node. That is what that it is doing. It is not doing anything more, right?
Correct.
So if that is the sense, we are just keeping and we are just using the data node part just to keep your data. That's it.
Correct.
So in that sense, like why can't I the processing speed and everything else related to the performance, which will be controlled by the upper layers. The data node, it is just by increasing my capacity of the hard disk to 100 terabytes or 200 terabytes, that will sufficient enough for me to keep all my data at one place, right?
Okay.
For that purpose, I don't really need to have multiple data nodes.
Okay, I understand your question now. Yeah. So what the question is here, guys, let's say why do I need to go with the multiple machines? In the existing machines only I increase the hard disk. I'll go with a better hard disk or I'll go with a better storage. That is our question, Venkat?
Absolutely, Ravi. That's right.
In that case, how will you achieve the parallel process?
Right. Yeah, my question is, yeah, that's right. So for my data nodes to keep my backups, I will be having 3 machines, so which will be enough for me. So as per the architecture that suggests that like have three systems for the backup purpose. So 3 data nodes that I will be having it, and if it is needed, I will just increase my hard disk capacity and I will live with just three systems. Is that not possible?
That's not possible. That's really not possible, right? Because what will happen, so when you have 3 machines, when you're loading the data, only these 3 machines are getting filled with the blocks. So when you launch it, so let's assume that I have one machine, let's assume that I have one file which has the 100 blocks. I have 100 blocks. Okay. So when I have 100 blocks like this, what happened? So all these 100 blocks will be spread across only 3 machines. Ideally. So each machine will get 33 blocks. Each machine will get 33 blocks. It means when I want to process the data, I forcefully restricted to have only 3 machines. This machine is going to process 33 tasks, and other machine is going to process 33 tasks, and other machine is going to process 33 tasks. Correct? So it means that your machine it is like 33 tasks. It means you should have a 33 processor available in your that machine, right? And even you are giving a burden to one machine to process all 33 instead of having a very high high-end machine here having a 2 TB or 3 TB and having hundreds of cores in this machine. Why can't we go with the small machines, and if you spread across the small machines, the parallel process is achieved, right? The performance is getting achieved, right? The main intention is performance.
Okay, so yeah, so yeah, got it. So it is the purpose for the only parallel processing to make my system work in a better way in regards to performance.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, still I just curious if you can get the information like what is the maximum capacity suggestible for each data node as per the architecture that you just to know more.
Each data node capacity, yeah, I'll come on that. There is a formula also for that. We will discuss about the formula as well.
Okay, sure.
Go ahead, because
for each instance, right? The mapper instance or reducer instance, one JVM instance is created, means 33 processes. That means 33 JVM instances will be created.
Yes, 33 JVM instances has to be created. 33 child JVMs has to be launched.
Is there a limitation to that? How many instances we can create it at max?
See, that is what there is something called resource manager and there is something called containers. Okay, when it comes to Hadoop 2, in the Hadoop 1 we have a concept called cores. So how many cores you have? Each core can handle 2 tasks.
Okay.
When you were talking about the core concept earlier. So now when it comes to the Hadoop 2, we do not have a core concept. You can have any number of cores based on the RAM, based on the resource network, based on the RAM, based on the network, based on the your process speed. So I will create one processor I can launch in the one machine, one container. So that container can handle these many tasks, 1 task, 2 tasks, 3 tasks. Okay, so even the container is nothing but is a JVM here who can process that much about it. So when you restricted to one machine, two, 3 machines, or whole data is getting processed in 2, 3 machines, you are launching a 3 containers, and who is doing so many process and who is waiting for to complete another task to do it. Yes or no? Understand? Because that will be monitoring by our resource manager, that the resource manager will be running on the same machine where the name node is running, or it can be a separate machine. It can be a separate machine, no problem at all in that. Okay.
So Ravi, I have one question over here. So coming to JVM, in the architecture part, where exactly the JVM will fit into?
So JVM will be there in all the machines.
So all the machines, in the sense that is pertaining to the data nodes for each data node machine. Is that right?
Yes, we talked about something called task tracker who process the data, right, in the data nodes. So to process the data, they will launch a JVM to process the data. It's like, because it's a Java code.
Okay. Okay. So JVM is not required at a name node level or otherwise in general or anywhere else?
No, it is required. It is required because all tools are running on top of this. All the tools are designed using Java only, right? The Hadoop framework itself is designed using Java. So to run my name node service, to run my resource manager service, to run all these services, I need a JVM.
Okay, so for all these things, like JVM is required.
Yes. Even if you are going with the better next, we're going to talk about the Spark and all, right? Even though we are going to move to the Spark, even the Spark is running on the JVMs only, because that Spark has been designed using Scala. The Scala will work on top of the JVM.
Okay, so that is kind of like underlying structure of big data, how it is being developed by using Java, right? So that's where the JVM is part in all the phases. Right?
It's not like underlying structure. It is the component where will execute all your what you can processes. It has to execute your services, right? It has to run your services. Like your mobile. Let's take your mobile. Let's say in the mobile you will be having Android and all these applications. They are working on top of your Android. So JVM is like a Java virtual machine. It is working as a there will be something called JRE, Java runtime environment. On top of that, you will be having this JVM. What this JVM will do, it will load your class files. It will execute. I mean, all the processes which has to run your program, whatever the program you have written, like loading the class files, taking care of the security, and converting into bytecode, making understand this bytecode to machine your hardware understanding language. So all these things like memory management, garbage collection, all this will be taken care by your JVM.
Okay, so one of my basic question is like, so the big data is that is developed on using Java
The,
Java softwares.
these tools are developed using Java software. Big data is a
Okay,
concept. The Hadoop,
okay. So
these tools are yeah. But Spark is not developed using Java, but Spark is developed using Scala. There is another programming language called Scala, which is also work on top of the JVM only. So Java based virtual box only. So that is on top of JVM only. That's also on top of JVM only.
okay, so for the Scala also is the OOPS is the basic concept for it.
It's not like a OOPS. It is a combination of the functional programming language as well as the operating system. OOPS, functional and object oriented, both will be there. So we'll talk more about that part, anyway when the time comes. Okay. Let's move instead of yeah, it's a very nice discussion, guys. See, I think most of the guys that most of the doubts has been cleared, so it's really good to have a discussion. Okay. And federation, what is a federation? The federation is that, as I said before, we will be burden on the name node. Right now I want to reduce the burden on the name node. I want to reduce the burden on the name node. How will I reduce the burden on the name node? By keeping one more name node. Keeping one more name node. It is not a replacement of the previous architecture, guys. The previous architecture is well and good. The high availability always will be there. Okay. This architecture is not going for the replacement of the existing architecture. It is a better of an existing architecture. It doesn't mean that no one is using checkpointing. It doesn't mean that no one is using the backup node. It doesn't mean that no one is using a secondary name node. So based on their use cases, based on their data, based on their cluster size, and they will go with it. So when they have a very cluster size, let's say 20 machines, I don't really know to go with a federation. I don't need to worry about it, because this one mission, two missions can easily handle that, right? So when I'm not worrying about the checkpointing and all, anyway I have my own service who can go and talk and fetch the results. So if you customized your own service, like merging the edits, or taking the backup of your FS image as a custom job, it's called as a cron job. Explicit is not part of the Hadoop. There is a new service we have designed or we have customized. That service will go and talk to the name node to take the FS image every time. So that time also you don't need to worry about all the checkpointing and all those things. So it is totally depends on the use case, or the totally depends on your project, the type of the projects you are going to run on the cluster. Okay. It doesn't mean that everyone should has to use the same architecture. Here we will call that something called name node 1 and name node 2. Okay, we will use the name node 1, name node 2. What the name node 1, name node 2 will have. So here I'm not talking about a backup node and all high availability. They will have their own high availability. So that is different. Here I'm only talking about the burdening or balance, what is say, you can load, spreading the load on the name node, not on the data nodes, load on the name nodes, managers, reducing the load on the manager level, not in the other I can say slave level. So slave level load balance is the something different, and the manager level load balance is something is different. So we will talk about the slave level load manager when we come to the commands. I will show the command how we will spread the load in the slave level. So now we are seeing how to reduce the load, balancing the load on the manager level. This is what we are going to discuss about, which is balancing the load on manager level, or I can say master level. Okay, I'll be having my name node 1, I'll be having a name node 2. In this case, this guy will have his own cluster ID. If you guys remember, I have shown you sometime before cluster ID. This guy will have his own cluster ID. This guy will have his own cluster ID. And the slaves will be keep reporting to all the guys. So they will be reporting to both of guys. Okay, so there is something called block manager here. block manager. There will be something called block manager. If you guys remember, there is something called block pool. There is something called block pool. So the block pool is here actually. Okay, so the same block pool ID will be mapped with here. That's what that's the reason I have written here. You'll be having a block pool and you will be having a block manager. How this will be balance the load in the your master level. How the load is balanced in the master level. So we will decide before in the configuration itself. We will specify if you take care of the name node 1, hey, you take care of the slash share part. Hey, name node 2, you take care of the when it comes to slash root. I mean, it is configurable, guys. Whatever the directory you want to give, you can give it. It's not like always slash share, always slash root. You can change it, okay? Or else you can change. You don't want to be a root here. You can change it to slash user. Okay, we will define that. So what we will do here, whenever any data trying to come to under this share, let's say I'm going to put some data in it, slash share slash data 1 slash Amazon. When I'm putting the data, my parent directory slash share. So as soon as you say slash share, he will be having his own block pool ID. He will be having a different block pool ID and he will be having a different block pool, right? So when I say slash user as my root directory and data whatever it is, whenever I have this, so because I'm sending, my block pool ID is now here is slash user. So your block manager will understand that, okay, as soon as your client itself, guys, as soon as your client itself will understand this, your HDFS client itself will understand. The source is anything, the destination is this. Oh, destination is this. Okay, he's talking about slash share. Go and talk to this block manager, the block pool, and allocate the machines to that block pool. So how it will allocate the machines? Because with respect to this name node, this is the cluster. So when you talk about this guy, he will say this is my team, this is my cluster. So in this, what are the machines has to go and share, what are the machines has to go and share with respect to the block pool, it will go and store into that part. It doesn't mean that only few machines will store for the name node 1. No, name node 1 will allocate the data into all the machines, but a different folder structure. He will manage only slash share. And when any other request come for the put the data into slash user, it will go to this guy. And what he will say, okay, the request came, right? So let's see, this is my cluster. Where is my? He will say this is my cluster. It means both guys are referring complete machines, but the way they manage is different. Whatever the data is there under share, I will manage that data. Name node 1 says that machine. So whatever the data is there under user, I will manage this data. That will be told by another manager. If any request come for the processing the data, he no need to worry about the data which is there in the slash user or which is managing by slash user. He will be managing only the slash share part. If any, so he no need to worry about the data storing into slash user, but this guy is no need to worry about storing the data into slash share. So they will work as, when you look at from the independently or individually from the respective clusters, respective name nodes, they says that, oh, this is my cluster, this is my cluster ID, this is the blocks I have the data, this is the data I have in this blocks. So when I want to launch a data, okay, this part only, right? I'll no need to worry about the whole data. So this is the part of the data which I need to go ahead and process. Understand, guys? This is how your federation works. One guy will take care of the complete one part of the data, and other guy will take care of the one part of the data. It is not like they're segregating the people or like a data nodes. The data nodes will be keep reporting to that, but the way they need to manage or the way they need to store the data will be segregated. Okay. So this is the final architecture change what I have seen till today. So federation is the final architecture change. It doesn't mean that it's a replacement of other one. So as I said that this name node 1, he can have his own secondary name node, he can have his own checkpoint or backup, whatever the configuration we decided, he can have a high availability here. That can be possible. So this is just a managed level load balancing. Okay. So that's it for today. So this is what we have discussed about the theory part. The theory part is completely done. So we need to do a setup in our machines, and we need to go with the setup. And before going to setup, I would like to explain with the configurations how the federation work and how the your high availability and secondary name node works. So there are documents for that. I will share the documents and I'll explain those documents. And we need to have a setup for that. So please make sure that you guys will do a setup on it. So to do a setup, I'll share the documents. So I'll share the documents, or what you guys can do it very easy thing. So I strongly recommend you guys to go through this YouTube channel. In this YouTube channel, go to playlist. In the playlist, you do have something called Hadoop setup in Ubuntu machines. And you do have here, you see, either you can go through these two, but these two are very lengthy videos. These are little lengthy videos. I recommend you to go through these videos, or you can go through this. This is Ubuntu installation. Here you can see one separate videos for all the installations. You want to do Ubuntu installation in Windows machine, you can go with this two videos. You want to do a Java setup, go through this video. You want to do Hadoop installation, go through this video. You want to do Scala and all those things, we can do it later. So as of now, it's not required. So I recommend you to go through these videos and do a setup. And I'll give you the documents. I'll share the document today. So the documents, you can also have a parallel while going through this video. You can also have a document to refer. Okay, try to do it. So if you are not able to do it tomorrow in the classroom, we will do the setup, not to worry, but make sure that the prerequisite, like the Ubuntu is installed, VirtualBox is installed, and Java is installed, that kind of things. Otherwise you can do it in the classroom itself. I don't want to take more time for the installations. I don't want to kill everyone's time for installation itself. Okay, as I said before, the prerequisites are like, if you have a machines, Windows machine. I know that most of the guys will be having Windows machines. If you have a Windows machine, so greater than 4 GB RAM, we will go with the VirtualBox, Oracle VirtualBox, which is completely free. You don't need to worry about, even though you can install in your company laptop. It's 100% open source, 100% free of cost. Okay, and once you install the Oracle VirtualBox in this machine, it will act as a different machine now. So your Windows machine is different. We are creating VirtualBox. We are creating virtual machine. So by allocating some resources like some hard disk space, some RAM, we are allocating from your actual RAM and hard disk. So here you can install Ubuntu. If you have a less than 4 GB RAM, it's a little difficult to go with the Oracle VirtualBox, because it will be keep hanging. It will be keep stop. I mean, it will be keep hanging, I can say. I do believe that on most of our we have a greater than 4 GB RAM only, right? If you are using Linux box or MacBook, it's really good. So what you guys can do, you can directly go ahead and install either VM. If you really want to do VM and MacBook, you can go ahead and do the VM, or you can directly install Hadoop in MacBook as well. It will work absolutely fine. It will work no problem at all. And if you have a Linux box, it's really good. Anyway, we can directly install on this. So these are the prerequisites. The softwares and all, it can be downloaded from the internet, because they're all completely open source. You no need to worry about the license and nothing to worry about any of them. They're completely open source, even though you can install in your company laptops. Okay, so why I'm telling that even though in company laptops, because the company laptops will be keep monitoring, that will be the keep audit will be happening. What are the softwares has been installed in this laptop, or like the audit will be doing. So you will not be face any problem if you have this one, because they are completely 100% open source. Okay, so that's it for today's guys, and yeah. So
Yeah, Veera.
just
Yeah,
Sudhin.
for this Oracle VM, so like we'll install today, or like, is there any document for this
Yes,
Oracle VM, like virtual machine?
yes, I'll be sharing your document very soon today itself, and
Okay.
you can also follow this documents.
So that is for Ubuntu, right? Once I'll
No,
install VM, then I can install
no, no,
Ubuntu.
no. This is for it will tell you that installing your this one also, Oracle VirtualBox also.
Oracle VM also.
Yes,
Okay, okay. So first Oracle VM, then Ubuntu will
yes,
install.
yes.
Okay, okay. So both install part 1, part 2, we need to go through.
See, installing Oracle VirtualBox is very simple. Very 3-4 steps. I will share the documents. If you see the documents, you can easily understand.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
Okay, let me see in chat window. Is there any questions? If the both are working, then what is the fault tolerant? Both has to work in the Hadoop Federation, Deepika. In the Hadoop Federation, both will be running. Fault tolerant is already there, no? You have a block replacement policy. So anyway, that is taken care, right? The fault tolerant in that case. And as I said, your name node 1 will have its own backup machine or high availability. Name node 2 will also has its own backup and high availability. So where you are achieving the fault tolerance. Okay. Thank you guys. Thanks for your time. Have a great day and great evening.
Thanks, Veera.
Bye guys.
Okay.